Hello again, this is Julia Maxwell, your librarian for the Blaustein School, and I'm here with another video just to help you get settled with citing in APSA, or American Political Science Association style. Citations can be really nerve-wracking because we often feel like if we get it wrong, we're going to get caught plagiarizing or something like that. One thing that I really want to say up top is that as long as you are attributing your information, even if you mess up the format, that is, first of all, not plagiarism, and second of all, you can always, adjust the style, fix the style, but the important thing is that you're citing your information. So even if you get it wrong, don't worry. I'm here to help. Your professor's here to help. And hopefully this video can help you get set up with citing some government documents in APSA style. So we're here again in your Canvas page. And again, we're in your library resources module here at the bottom. And I've created a handout for you called Citing in APSA. If you click on it, you'll get a nice little document here. But also in your course research guide, which we showed last time in the last video, there's also a Citing Your Sources tab that has the very same information in it. So whichever way you go, if you look at the guide, if you look at the Citing in APSA handout, they have the same information. So either way, they can be very helpful. For our purposes, we're just going to go ahead and look at the handout here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see more of the screen. So the handout starts with a reminder of the legislative numbering and printing that we discussed last time. So again, bills are introduced in sequential order. They also have the number of the session of Congress at the front. Public laws are described very similarly. So once a bill becomes a law, it gets the number of Congress dash the number of laws passed in that session. The second printing of a law is a statute. That has a similar printing with volumes and pages in the citation there. And then lastly, we have United States Code. That's arranged by subject rather than chronology, and that has its own printing. So sections and titles. And that's all in this handy dandy timeline here as well. So again, this is all in your library guide as well, but just to make sure that you have several places where you can find it. We also have our glossary here. And then let's go and actually look at some examples of citations. So you're going to be citing the usual things that you cite in a research paper, like scholarly articles, news articles, reports, but you're also going to be citing actual government documents like the text of a law, the text of a bill, a transcript from a hearing. And so knowing how to cite those can be really important in this class. Again, you might not get it right every time, but the important part is that you try and that you always attribute your source. You always cite the source when you get the information from somewhere that's not your own head. So let's take a look at this guide here. So you can see that we've got some examples here. We've got an example for a bill, and then we've got the format, and then we've got an example, then we've got some notes here. I'll explain the notes section in a minute. And you can see we've got all these different examples, right? So we've got statutes, we've got hearings, congressional reports, debates, state laws, books, journal articles, and newspaper articles, which are more of the typical things you might be citing in a research paper. Then you have in-text citation formatting. So this is when you actually cite in your paper, in parentheses, what that looks like. So using the same examples, we've got examples for in-text citations, we've got the format, and we have our notes. Our notes section is helpful for knowing when to abbreviate. So APSA format uses a lot of abbreviations. For instance, it uses HR for House or HR Res for resolution. It uses S for Senate. It uses CONG period for Congress. So for each type of document, there are abbreviation notes in this handout as well to help you know when to abbreviate. So what I usually think is helpful is to try to practice with a few examples. So I've pulled up a couple of different examples here. This is our legislative history that we were looking at in the last video for the CARES Act. And I figured we would use this as our jumping off point. So we can see that this public law was PL 116-136. Let's practice citing PL 116-136. I'm going to click on that in ProQuest so I can see the whole thing. So again, when we're looking at this, we're looking at the 116, which is a signifier for the 116th session of Congress, dash 136, which means it was the 136th law passed in that session of Congress. We can see the date it was passed. We see its title. So let's go ahead and go back to our handout here. So there are several categories that this might fall under, but this particular law would fall under, since it's public law, it'll fall under laws or statutes. And we've got our format here, we've got an example, we've got what we need to abbreviate. So let's go ahead and open a new document. So I've got just a blank document here where I'm going to practice. What I usually like to do is just copy my format into my blank document. I don't know why that's weirdly and new lined, but there we go. And that way we can just use this and use it as a guide right where we're typing in our things. So it looks like the first thing that comes in our citation is the name of the act. Let's go back and look. So our public law info, let's see here. It looks like the name of the act would be the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. So I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it right there. Then it looks like we've got a comma here. Then it looks like we need our public law number. I'm going to go back to my handout and just double check here. I see that public law number is abbreviated, and then we've got session of Congress dash the number of the law. So I'm going to copy that, paste it in, then I'm going to double check my abbreviations. Pub L no is the abbreviation. All right, then I see I've got a comma again. Then I see a statute number. Okay, so let's go back to our congressional document here. All right, and then right here it says 134th Statute 281. That is our statute number. I'm going to go back to my handout and just double check. Yes, so stat for statute. Just double checking those abbreviations. Then we've got another, no comma after statute number. And then we've got the year in parentheses. Let's double check the year, 2020. Put that in. There we go. We have our citation. So this would be what goes in our reference list. But what if we want to cite it in the text, right? What if we're paraphrasing some of the text of the law and we need to put our in-text citation because we used information that was not ours from our brain. So let's check our handout again, because in our handout for after we see our reference list citations, we see our in-text citations. So we see here federal law or statute. We see that it's the name of the law or the statute and the year. So that means that we would have Corona. I'm not going to type that. I'm just going to copy paste it. That's much faster. And then you won't have to watch me try to spell things. Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, 2020. There we go. So that's what would go into your paper. Okay, so let's practice one more. So that was a public law. Just so you can reference that. But let's try maybe a bill. So this bill is one of the bills that was introduced into the House, but failed. So it was one of the ones that didn't become the CARES Act. It's a different bill that I clicked on. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And let's go ahead and see here. So similarly, we've got all the information, got the title, got the number. We see, all sorts of information, the date, which will probably be important. So let's go back to our handout and see how we can cite this. So we see that it's the name of the proposed act, the bill number without the session number, then the session of Congress, then the year. So I'm going to copy that format again. I don't know why it keeps doing that weird thing when I copy it, but oh well. So here we go. So let's go back to our bill here. So we see the name is the first thing we need. So again, we know where to find the name. Pop that in there, put a comma. Then we get our bill number without the session number. Let's go back and look at our example. So we see we've got our HR for House or Senate, and then the number. So this would be HR 2150. Isn't that crazy? They introduced 2,150 bills at least in that session of Congress. Comma. And then the session of Congress, and I believe Congress is abbreviated. It is. So Congress is CONG. It's 116th Congress. CONG. And then we got the year, which we already know. Well, actually, no, it would be 2019. That was 2019. All right, so that is our citation for a bill. Let's do our in-text citation. Go back to our handout here. So we see it's the name of the act and the year. Pretty simple. Since this one has a of 2019 on the end, I would suggest just removing that and then putting 2019. Just so you're not writing like of 2019, because that is redundant. So you can go ahead and remove that if there's a date on the end there of the title of the bill. But that is a bill. So that's just citing two of the government documents you're going to encounter a lot. Again, there's examples for kind of every single different type of government document you're going to encounter. So please use these examples, use the formats, the abbreviations, and this can get you set for success for citing in the class. And again, be kind to yourself. Don't be too afraid of messing up. Just cite, attribute the information. That's the important part. And, you can always get better at the format. All right, so this was Julia Maxwell again with another video. Have a great rest of class or rest of your day, and happy citing.